The plasma squall had raged for 3 grueling days before Ethan Cole finally emerged from the shattered remnants of forward operating base Sigma-9. Violet lightning split the alien horizon, each flash brutally illuminating the wreckage of what was once humanity's most remote frontier in the Drathar conflict. The atmosphere was heavy with the stench of copper and ozone, a toxic cocktail left behind by weapons that defied all known physics, and the mass death they had delivered. Ethan moved through the ruins with instinctual silence. His battlefield moniker, the Quietest soldier, wasn't earned through shyness or weakness. Since Thermopylae Station, since watching his wife and daughter incinerate in enemy plasma, screaming held no catharsis, and speech no purpose. Only the mission remained his focus. His combat suit's sensors methodically swept the devastated landscape, a futile search for survivors. The Drathar were predictably thorough. Their assault crafts had descended like avian predators, dispensing biological agents that reduced the base's defenders to corrupted, writhing masses even before the main plasma cannonade began. Their doctrine was strict. Leave no life. Leave nothing remotely human. Ethan noted the bitter irony. Human propaganda depicted the Drathar as ancient earth vampires, pale skin, elongated canines, great strength, and an alleged taste for human blood. But after 6 years of war, Ethan knew the reality was terrifyingly worse. Fairy tale monsters died to stakes in sunlight. The Drathar demanded significantly heavier ordnance. A low metallic scrape echoed across the debris field. Ethan froze, his rifle snapping up. The storm's pervasive EM interference rendered his motion tracker useless, but his combat-honed senses screamed danger. He tracked toward the sound, each movement a precise maneuver around the twisted alloy and congealed blood that coated the floor. The reinforced doors of the main bunker lay violently ruptured. Inside, the emergency lights struggled, their desperate, dying flickers casting erratic shadows over the scene. Ethan descended into the gloom, his night vision tinting the devastation a sickly green. The command center was obliterated. Corpses lay strewn like discarded marionettes, their final expressions of terror etched permanently by death. He recognized Major Harrison only by the melted rank insignia on his chest plate. A second sound, fainter, a shallow, ragged breath, but wrong. Too weak, too desperate. He found her curled behind a destroyed tactical display. For a split second, his finger tightened on the trigger. A Drathar child, perhaps 8 or 9 Earth Standard years old, though their species aged differently. Her skin was the characteristic pale gray, etched with complex scarring that looked ceremonial rather than battle-related. Dark purple blood pulsed from a shrapnel wound in her flank, tearing through her ornate robes. She was dying. The logical, military response was clear: terminate with a plasma round and move on. Standing orders were absolute. No Drathar taken alive. 0 exceptions. Admiral Reeves had ensured this policy was gospel after the Kepler Station incident. The enemy showed no quarter, and the coalition returned the favor. But she was so small. Her eyes snapped open as he approached, revealing the iconic crimson irises of her race. Instead of the savage hatred he expected, he saw only raw fear and pain. She attempted to speak, but the effort yielded only a wet cough that brought forth more of the thick purple blood. Ethan's hands moved independently of his conscious thought. He ripped the emergency medkit from his gear. The bowfoam was chemically incompatible with Drathar physiology, but it might momentarily staunch the bleeding. As he worked, he noticed a device clamped around her neck, a collar emitting a dull, sickly green light. He'd encountered these before. Coalition-manufactured bioweapon delivery systems designed for slow, excruciating termination. The realization hit him like a physical blow. A human weapon was killing this Drathar child. This wasn't a combatant or a spy. This was a victim caught in the crossfire, being killed by tools her own species hadn't created. The collar's serial number confirmed it. United Earth Coalition, Black Ops designation. The girl's breathing became severely strained. The foam slowed. The external hemorrhage but internal damage was far beyond his field capabilities. She required a medical bay immediately. The nearest human base would execute both of them on sight. The nearest Drathar outpost would assume he was using her as bait. She whispered something in her tongue, words he didn't grasp, but he recognized. The familiar cadence of a child calling for their mother or pleading with their gods. Her tiny hand desperately clutched his armored glove. He was struck by the simple humanity of the gesture, the universality of pain and terror. Ethan made a split-second commitment. The medical transport remained intact, hidden in the underground motor pool. Its stealth systems could bypass most sensor grids, and its automated pilot could navigate the lingering plasma storm. He lifted the girl, her weight negligible in his powered suit, and secured her in the trauma pod. Removing the collar was crucial, but one false move would activate the kill switch failsafe. His fingers, trained with the precision that earned him marksman certifications across 3 sectors, went to work. The collar's architecture was a nightmare of interwoven biotech and conventional explosives. A single miscalculation meant instant vaporization for them both. The final connection broke with a faint click. The collar fell away and the girl's labored breathing instantly eased. A hint of healthier coloration, what passed for it in her species, returned to her face. She opened her eyes, fixing him with an intensity that belied her near-death state. "Bloodkin," she whispered in heavily accented English, the word barely audible. Ethan understood the profound significance of Drathar culture. Bloodkin represented their most sacred form of life debt, a bond that superseded species and allegiance. By saving her, he had become something more than an enemy. He was now family. The transport's engines ignited. Ethan plotted a jump to the neutral zone, a lawless expanse of space where neither military held authority, a haven for smugglers and the desperate. He could locate medical help there, perhaps someone to safely hide the girl. As the transport ascended, the base's automated distress beacon finally initiated. In 6 hours, a coalition rescue team would find only bodies and confusion. By then, Ethan would be untouchable, forever branded a traitor for showing mercy to the enemy. The girl stirred, her vitals stabilizing. She spoke again, a rush of her native tongue that didn't require translation. The tone was unmistakable, relief, gratitude, and something else, a sound that echoed the way his own daughter used to call for him after a nightmare. Trust. The plasma storm raged against the transport shields, violet light charting their passage through the debris. Sigma 9 burned behind them, another sacrifice to a monstrous war. Ahead lay only chaos and danger. But for the first time in 3 years since Thermopylae Station stole everything, Ethan Cole felt something besides emptiness. Not quite hope, that word was too fragile, but something, a vital crack in the emotional armor he'd worn. The transport's comms system crackled with coalition search frequencies. He could respond, attempt an explanation, but he knew the only result would be a missile lock, an explosion, and 2 more anonymous casualties. He killed the communicator. The girl mumbled in her sleep, reaching out. Without conscious thought, Ethan took her hand, gentle enough not to crush her small fingers. Her skin was cool, distinctly alien, yet not wrong. They flew into the storm. 2 strange companions bound by fate and an ancient foreign word, bloodkin. The neutral zone appeared on his scope, a cluster of forgotten asteroids and derelict stations, perfect cover for those who needed to vanish. Ethan knew a doctor there, a woman named Laura Miles who had lost her license for being too outspoken about the war's true toll. She wouldn't care about purple blood or crimson eyes. As they neared the first automated checkpoint, the girl woke fully. She looked at him with startling intelligence, comprehending the massive risk he'd taken. "Name?" she asked in careful, deliberate English. "Ethan," he replied, his voice rough from disuse. She nodded solemnly, then pointed to herself. "Saras." It was a simple exchange, yet it redefined everything. She was no longer just a Drathar child, no longer just the enemy. She was Saras, and he was no longer just the quietest soldier. He was Ethan, bloodkin to a girl whose species had destroyed his family. The checkpoint scanner swept the transport. For a terrifying second, Ethan expected the alarm, but the falsified credentials held, allowing them passage into the zone's chaotic embrace. Dr. Laura Miles operated from a repurposed mining station, her medical bay a chaotic mix of salvaged Coalition and Drathar technology. She registered the Drathar child with only a slight rise of her eyebrows, immediately focusing on the medical task at hand. While Elra worked, Ethan stood rigid guard. He knew the trouble was coming. The Coalition would declare him a traitor, and the Drathar would assume he was a kidnapper. Both sides would hunt them. But watching Saras sleep peacefully, her breathing strong and steady, Ethan simply didn't care. For 3 years he'd been a ghost, surviving only for revenge. Now he had a responsibility, a connection he never sought but couldn't deny. Lara emerged from the medical bay, wiping purple residue from her hands. "She'll live," she stated flatly. "But I can't fathom what you intend to do with a Drathar child in a war zone." Ethan had no answer. His planning hadn't extended beyond saving her life. "There's more," Laura continued, her expression deepening with concern. "Her blood work shows synthetic markers. Someone was experimenting on her. Those scars aren't ceremonial, they're surgical. The implications were catastrophic. The bioweapon collar was not the first horror inflicted on Saras. Someone, either human or Drathar, had been using her as a test subject, a child turned into a lab specimen in the name of victory. Ethan's grip tightened on his rifle, fueled by a clean, focused rage. Not just protectiveness, but fury at a war that consumed children as easily as soldiers. "How soon can she travel?" he asked. 2 days minimum. "She's resilient, but the experiments caused damage I'm still cataloging." 2 days. A lifetime in the neutral zone. Word would spread quickly. A human soldier with a Drathar child. The hunters would arrive from all directions. Let them come, Ethan thought. The perfect soldier died at Thermopylae Station. What remained was something else. Something capable of becoming bloodkin to the last person who should ever trust him. Saras murmured in her sleep, speaking the word he needed to hear in accented English. Family. She was learning, adapting, just as he would have to. The storm outside gave way to an eerie calm. Soon the pursuit would begin. But for now, the war could wait. Family, however improbable, could not. The explosion hit on the second night exactly when Laura had predicted trouble. The mining station's hull groaned under the impact, and Ethan was moving before the alarms even sounded. He grabbed his rifle and the prepped go bag, rushing to the medical bay where Saras was struggling to sit up, her crimson eyes wide with fright. "Coalition?" Lara demanded, already gathering supplies. Ethan scanned his tactical display. 3 ships running dark. Not Coalition. Worse, bounty hunters. Someone's put a price on us. The station shuddered again. Warning shots designed to disable defenses, not destroy the prize. Professional work. Saras tried to stand but immediately stumbled. Ethan scooped her up. Her slight weight was nothing in his armor. She pressed her face into his shoulder, trembling. "Back exit," Elra instructed, leading them through a concealed labyrinth. "My ship's in the auxiliary bay. It's fast." "You're coming with us," Ethan insisted. "They're not after me. Besides, someone has to buy you time." A closer blast rocked the station. The hunters were impatient. Through the internal sensors, Ethan saw them breaching the main airlock. 5 figures in cobbled-together armor. Mercenaries who served only profit. A voice, amplified through the compromised comm system, cut through the noise. "The human traitor Cole and the Drathar brat. 50,000 credits alive. 30 dead. Try not to damage them too much." Saras understood enough English. "I fight." "Can fight." "No," Ethan said firmly. "You can barely stand." Yet, beneath the fear in her eyes, he saw a change. The predatory grace of an adult Drathar warrior. Injured or not, she was still a lethal creation of her species. LRA's ship was a modified medical transport, built for speed over combat. As Ethan secured Saras in the passenger seat, Laura handed him a datapad. "Everything I found," she said. "The experiments go deeper. Someone was trying to weaponize her abilities, cognitive enhancement, reflexive augmentation, even attempts at consciousness transfer. I can't tell if they were trying to implant something or remove something." The station lights flickered. The hunters were in the main corridor. Ethan heard their calculated professional movement. "Go," Lara said, sealing the bay door. "I'll buy you time." Ethan wanted to argue, but Saras convulsed, purple blood trickling from her nose. Her body was rejecting the foreign modifications. She needed immediate, specialized medical care. The ship's engines screamed to life just as the first hunter rounded the corner, giving chase. Ethan Cole vented the mercenary's lifeless body into the void, having ended him with 3 precisely placed plasma blasts before the auxiliary bay doors fully sealed. The other attackers would now operate with increased caution. The space surrounding the mining station was a chaotic field of industrial detritus and derelict machinery, perfect cover for a small, nimble craft. Ethan skillfully threaded the transport through the asteroids and abandoned rigs, the hunter's heavier ship struggling to mirror his aggressive maneuvers. Their advantage, however, was knowledge. They correctly assumed his destination was Meridian Station, a former Drathar embassy that had declared political independence at the war's outset, making it the only truly safe port within 3 sectors. Saras had ceased convulsing, yet her breathing remained shallow and strained. Her unnerving crimson eyes tracked his every subtle movement at the controls, as if she were committing his piloting to memory. "Why?" she asked abruptly. "Why salvage Drathar?" It was the most coherent and complex sentence she had yet constructed in English, and it struck directly at the heart of their precarious alliance. Ethan chose his words with care. "Because you are not just Drathar. You are Saras. You are a child, and children should not bear the cost of their parents' conflicts." She remained still for a prolonged moment, processing the unexpected ideology. Then in a whisper she asked, "Your child perished?" The question felt like a physical blow, whether through an accidental overheard word or some innate Drathar sensitivity to emotional pain. She had perceived his deepest trauma. "Yes," he confirmed simply. "By Drathar hands?" "Yes." She drew her frail body inward, shrinking further. "Then why?" Before he could articulate an answer, the proximity alarm shrieked. The hunters had anticipated his strategy, using a second vessel to execute a flanking maneuver and cut off their path to Meridian. Ethan swore, forcing the transport into a violent, spiraling dive that would have annihilated any larger, less reinforced vessel. Saras's small hands gripped the restraint straps until her knuckles were white, yet she uttered no sound of fear. The comm system crackled to life. "Mr. Cole, this is Captain Marcus Thorne of the Independent Vessel Scavenger. You are in possession of stolen Drathar military property. Surrender the asset and your life might be spared." Stolen property. Asset. They refused to acknowledge her as a person. "Counteroffer," Ethan transmitted. "Rerouting auxiliary power to the transport's minimal weapon systems. Turn back now and I won't detonate your reactor core through your own hull." Thorne issued a cold laugh. "You're flying a med transport armed with 2 torpedo tubes and a defensive laser. I carry enough ordnance to crack a moon." Thorne was accurate. In a direct engagement, they were doomed. But Ethan had survived 6 years of war by refusing to fight conventionally. "Saras," he spoke softly. "Can you reach that panel?" "The one marked with the medical cross?" She nodded, unbuckled amidst the violent maneuvers, and crawled toward the console. Inside was Dr. Lura Miles's emergency kit, containing vials of highly concentrated stem compounds intended for in-transit critical care. "The blue ones," Ethan instructed. "Load them into the torpedo tube's chemical dispensers." Her eyes widened with comprehension. The compounds were highly volatile when introduced to the vacuum and combined with a localized heat source. Not enough for a kill shot, but enough to simulate a catastrophic explosion. The bounty hunter ships converged, overly confident in their superior firepower. Ethan waited until they were fully committed to their attack formation, then launched both torpedoes into empty space, detonating them early. The resulting chemical reaction produced an intensely bright blue flash, temporarily blinding every sensor within a 1,000-kilometer radius. By the time the scavenger crew regained sensor clarity, Ethan had violently shifted their trajectory, diving straight into the deep gravity well of a nearby gas giant. The medical transport groaned under the atmospheric stress, but its hull held. "Clever, Cole," Thorne's voice hissed through the static. "But you can't hide in there indefinitely. That hull won't survive the deep atmosphere." Again, he was correct, but Ethan had no intention of descending deeply. The gas giant harbored a tiny captured moon, a derelict asteroid housing an abandoned Coalition research station. It possessed automated defenses, but they were configured exclusively to target Drathar signatures. Saras seemed to anticipate his plan. "I stay hidden. Ship thinks only human aboard. Can mask biosigns? She closed her eyes. Her skin paled further, her breathing slowed to almost nothing. Even the ambient air around her felt cooler. It is a survival reflex, she explained, her English still fractured. Playing dead. My people evolved it for survival during the ancient void migrations between stars. The research station's defenses activated as they approached, aggressively scanning. Ethan gambled, broadcasting his outdated coalition military codes. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the weapons powered down and the docking bay doors opened. They had earned a brief reprieve. The station was a tomb. Frozen corpses littered the command post where the Drathar assault had caught them years ago. Ethan tried to shield Saras, but she absorbed the entire scene with unnerving calm. This is war, she stated softly. Both sides create death. In the station's medical bay, Ethan located a military-grade diagnostic scanner. He desperately needed to catalog the full extent of the modifications inflicted upon Saras. The findings were horrific. Parts of her central nervous system had been systematically replaced with synthetic alternatives. Not crude metal implants, but engineered tissue that grew like organic matter, yet retained programmable capabilities. They were creating a hybrid, a synthetic organism that could be controlled by its architect. Project Synthesis, Saras read over his shoulder. Mother tried to stop it. They killed her for it. The truth settled between them. Her mother had been murdered protecting her from her own people's horrific experiments. Just then, the station's sensors chimed. The hunters had found them. But something else appeared on the scope. A massive Drathar heavy cruiser emerging from hyperspace, weapons charging. The bounty hunters immediately tried to flee, but it was too late. The cruiser's primary cannons reduced the scavenger to dust in seconds. The comm system activated, filling the bay with a cold, deep voice. Ethan Cole, you possess property belonging to the Empire. Return the heir immediately or face the full consequences. Saras was not just a Drathar child. She was royalty. That is Commander Varn, Saras whispered, her face showing genuine terror for the first time. He leads the Shadow Council. He ordered the experiments. The entire conspiracy clicked into place. Varn had been weaponizing Saras, intending to use her as a controllable puppet ruler. When her mother objected, he eliminated her and fabricated the evidence to blame humanity. The bioweapon collar was his failsafe. Mr. Cole, Varn's voice continued, you have 1 minute to comply before I atomize that station. Ethan looked at Saras, the strange child who was now his ward, his family. What do you want to do? He asked her. She straightened, and for a fleeting moment he saw the formidable ruler she was destined to become. We run, she declared. Together. Ethan smiled, a sensation he hadn't experienced in years. Then we run. He initiated the station's self-destruct sequence, overloading the core reactor while simultaneously launching every beacon and escape pod to create maximum confusion. As they sprinted back to the transport, Saras grabbed his hand. Bloodkin means eternity, she affirmed, even in death. They launched just as the station's reactor reached criticality, surfing the shockwave out of the gas giant's orbit. Varn's cruiser, too massive to react instantly, took significant damage, buying them precious time. Where go now? Saras asked as the stars blurred. Ethan had already formulated a plan. There was one place neither the Coalition nor the Drathar Empire would willingly follow: the Wanderer fleet. Mobile city ships, he explained. Refugees, smugglers, we can vanish there for a while. Saras nodded, then finally succumbed to exhaustion, curling up in her seat. As she slept, she mumbled in her own language, but one word was clearly distinguishable in English. Father. Not bloodkin, not protector. Father. A barrier he'd erected around his heart 3 years prior finally shattered. He had lost a daughter to this war. Impossibly, he had gained another. The universe, it seemed, had a darkly ironic sense of humor. Varn's damaged cruiser limped back toward Drathar space, but Ethan knew their hunt was far from over. Varn would pursue the heir to the Drathar throne with extreme prejudice. Simultaneously, the Coalition would brand the human soldier who betrayed his kind to save her as a primary target. They were now hunted by both sides, but watching Saras sleep, trusting him completely, he found a renewed sense of purpose. The transport's computer chimed. Wanderer Fleet ETA, 6 days of navigating contested space. He had 6 days to solve their biggest problem. Saras was worsening. Her body was violently rejecting Varn's synthetic modifications. Ethan remembered Lara mentioning consciousness transfer tech. He pulled up her medical files. Buried deep in the neural mapping data was a suppression algorithm. Someone had deliberately locked away Saras's true, powerful Drathar nature to ensure she remained easily controllable. "Saras," he woke her gently. "I need you to trust me completely." She was instantly alert. "Always trust," he explained his theory. Removing the suppression would heal her, but unleash her true Drathar instincts, the very nature that made her species so feared. "Might hurt you," she whispered. "Drathar instinct strong, might not control." "I'll take the chance," she studied him. "You saved me twice now." Trust complete. Using the transport's limited medical suite, Ethan delicately interfaced with the synthetic neural tissue. He systematically disabled the suppression protocols. Saras's vitals spiked dangerously. Then she screamed, not in agony but in a profound sense of release. A predatory aura warped the air around her. Her eyes blazed and her pale skin seemed to shimmer. She moved with a fluid, physics-defying grace. She looked at him, and for an agonizing moment he saw the raw, terrifying hunger in her crimson eyes. Then she blinked and she was simply Saras again. "I feel," she said, wonder in her voice. "Everything. I feel everything." She called it the shadow sense, the ability to perceive emotional resonance, to taste fear and courage, love and hate. It was overwhelming after years of forced dormancy. "You," she focused on him. "You taste like storm and sorrow and steel, but underneath, warmth. Hidden, but there." The days blurred into a pattern of evasion and survival. Saras grew stronger, her enhanced abilities manifesting in unpredictable ways. She could sense enemy ships before they appeared on the scanner and read the intentions of pilots light years away. It saved them countless times, but also showed her the overwhelming pain and hatred driving both sides of the war. "How stop it?" she asked one night. "How make peace when everyone tastes like pain?" Ethan had no answer, but looking at this impossible bridge between two warring species, he thought, if a human can become bloodkin to a Drathar heir, perhaps peace isn't as impossible as everyone believes. The Wanderer fleet finally appeared, a constellation of hope. As they prepared to dock, the proximity alarm screamed again. "Not hunters," Ethan muttered. "Not Drathar. Something else." A vessel unlike anything in either military database materialized from hyperspace. Its hull was a nightmarish, writhing mass of organic technology. It broadcast a message that caused Saras to convulse and Ethan's blood to run cold. "Project Synthesis activation confirmed. Retrieving primary asset. Resistance will result in termination of all life in this sector." Varn hadn't just been experimenting. He had been preparing Saras for this monstrous arrival. The alien ship pulsed with bioluminescent light, each pulse digging into Saras's consciousness, attempting to activate the synthetic neural tissue. Ethan seized manual control, violently abandoning their approach vector. "Can you block it?" he yelled over her screams. Saras pressed her palms to her temples. "It's inside the modifications. They're responding to it." The comm system crackled with a chilling, non-human, non-Drathar voice. "Asset designation Saras 9 Prime. Your genetic template is prepared for integration. Submit to retrieval or witness the termination of 10,000 souls." A tentacle of pure energy lashed out, striking a small refugee vessel from the Wanderer fleet. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, every atom unraveling. "Stop," Saras screamed. "I'll come." "Just stop killing them." "Negative," the voice responded. "You will come, and demonstrations will continue until compliance is absolute." Ethan realized the phrase compliance. Whatever Project Synthesis demanded, it required Saras as a willing, or at least a broken participant. "Saras," he forced himself to speak calmly, "you feel the ship. Is it alive?" Through pain-glazed eyes, understanding dawned. "It's empty, no life. Just programming. Then it can be hacked." Ethan pulled up the neural suppression codes he'd disabled. Instead of simply reactivating them, he inverted them, creating a feedback loop designed to broadcast Saras's newly unleashed Drathar signature in thousands of chaotic variations. "This is going to hurt," Ethan warned. "It already hurts," Saras gasped. "Proceed." He activated the program, and instantly the local space was flooded with 10,000 false signatures of Saras, confusing the alien vessel's targeting sensors. The pulsating energy tendrils froze, unable to differentiate the true target from the swarm of digital echoes. The Wanderer fleet seized the opportunity, and every ship capable of a warp jump scattered in divergent directions. Their small medical transport lacking a jump drive plunged into the ensuing chaos. Adaptation in progress, the alien voice droned. Countermeasures will be complete in 3 minutes. Asset retrieval will resume 3 minutes. Ethan desperately scanned the fleeing vessels. He spotted it. A heavy freighter with the livery of the Drathar but bearing the colors of the Wanderer fleet. The ship of a defector who had chosen freedom over empire. He hailed the freighter on a tightly focused beam. Ethan Cole here. I have the Drathar Heir. Grant us sanctuary, and she will remember your aid when this war finally ends. The response came back, heavily accented. This is Captain Kalen Rost, formerly of the Drathar 3rd Fleet. The Heir is dead, killed by humans at forward base Sigma 9. I live, Saras asserted, forcing strength into her voice despite the agony. She then switched to a burst of rapid Drathar, a precise sequence of authentication that Ethan did not understand. A long, tense silence followed. Then Rost's voice, now undeniably shaken, returned. Blood of the Empire. It is true, dock immediately. We jump in 60 seconds. The docking procedure was brutal, the transport scraping metal against the freighter's hull as Ethan slammed the connection home. They had barely secured the airlock when the jump drives tore reality apart, thrusting them through hyperspace. The second they were safely aboard, Saras collapsed, her body finally succumbing to the overwhelming strain. Ethan caught her small form as Captain Rost approached. The Drathar defector was visibly older than most warriors Ethan had encountered, his pale gray skin etched with scars that spoke of countless campaigns. The Heir lives, Rost stated, his voice a mixture of awe and fear, and she travels with a human. The universe truly has gone mad. The universe was already mad, Ethan countered. We're just trying to survive it. Rost led them to the freighter's surprisingly well-equipped medical bay. As Ethan laid Saras down, he observed Rost's crew, a motley assembly of humans and Drathar working together, deserters and refugees, all escaping a conflict that had consumed their lives. You're not the only one to blur the lines, Rost noted, following Ethan's gaze. The war forges strange bonds among those who refuse to fight it. While the ship's medic, a human woman named Sarah, began examining Saras. Rost drew Ethan aside. That entity that attacked the fleet, I saw something like it 2 decades ago. Before the war began, during a joint research effort when we still spoke of peace. Project Synthesis, Ethan's eyes narrowed. You know of it. Then you know what they sought to create. A hybrid consciousness, neither species capable of forcibly merging our races into something new. The project was shelved after the test subjects descended into madness. Evidently someone didn't abandon it, Rost spat, naming the architect. Varn. He was on the original team, brilliant, merciless, and convinced that evolution required force. When the program was terminated, he vanished into the Empire's shadow operations. Saras stirred, her eyes flickering open. He murdered my mother, she whispered weakly. She discovered he had revived the project, using me as the primary subject. The throne's bloodline carries the specific genetic markers that make the synthesis viable. But why frame it as a human attack? Ethan asked. To escalate the conflict, Rost explained. The more desperate both sides become for an end, the more likely they are to accept anything, even forced evolution, to stop the killing. Varn intends to position himself as the savior who can merge the species, Saras added, but he needs me alive. The royal blood is the key. Without it, the synthesis will kill everyone it touches. The freighter shuddered as it exited hyperspace into a dead system, a stellar graveyard stripped of resources long ago. Good cover, but temporary. We can't keep running, the medic Saras stated, finishing her assessment. Whatever they did is slowly destroying her. The synthetic neural tissue is actively rejecting her organic systems. She requires the original project synthesis data to reverse the damage, Rost said grimly, which means going back to the source, the Nexus Laboratory. Ethan knew the name. It was where the war truly ignited, the diplomatic summit that became a slaughter. Now it was a ghost-ridden space, ringed by lethal automated defenses from both sides. It's suicide, Ethan flatly declared. Agreed, Rost acknowledged, but it is also the last place Varn will expect you to go. And if the original research data exists anywhere, it's there. Saras struggled to sit up, her resolve overpowering her physical frailty. I will not let more people die because of me. If going to the Nexus can stop Varn and end this, then we go. You can barely stand, Ethan protested. Then you will carry me, she simply replied. Bloodkin means we face death together. Over the next 3 days, they prepared. Rost's crew, initially suspicious of harboring both a Drathar heir and a human soldier, slowly began to trust them. Saras, despite her pain, learned every crew member's name and listened to their tales of loss and survival. She possessed a rare ability to make people feel genuinely seen, regardless of species. Ethan watched her, pride and sorrow mingling. She was growing into a leader when she should have been enjoying childhood. One evening, as they neared the contested zone, Saras found Ethan maintaining his rifle in the cargo bay. You are afraid, she observed, her shadow sense instantly reading his emotions. Always am before a mission, he admitted. Fear keeps you sharp, not scared of dying, scared of losing me. He lowered the rifle, looking at the strange young soul who had filled the void in his heart. Yes, I am scared too, she said, sitting beside him. Not of death. Of becoming what Varn wants, a weapon to destroy both our peoples. That won't happen. How do you know? Ethan paused, then reached for a small hollow projector he had kept hidden since the disaster at Thermopylae. It contained the last images of his family. This was Lily, he said, showing Saras the recording of a young girl laughing. My daughter. She was about your age when she died. Saras studied the image with her ancient crimson eyes. She looks kind, happy. She was. And she taught me that people choose who they become. Every day, every moment, we make a choice. Varn cannot make you a weapon unless you choose to be one. What if I don't have a choice? What if the synthesis takes over? Then I'll remind you who you are. Saras, not a weapon, not an experiment. Just Saras, who calls me family and teaches a hardened soldier that enemy children are worth saving. She leaned against him. This alien child who had unexpectedly given him a reason to live. Tell me more about Lily, so he did. He shared the stories he had locked away for 3 years. Bedtime rituals, scraped knees, and proud moments. Saras listened intently, and through her shadow sense she felt the enduring love beneath his grief. She would have liked me, Saras asked when he finished. She would have loved you, Ethan said, and he meant it entirely. The Nexus Laboratory hung before them like a wounded, metallic corpse, its vast structure violently ripped apart by the first betrayal. Automated weapons platforms from both fleets circled it like relentless vultures. How do we breach the perimeter? Medic Sarah asked, studying the defensive grid. We don't go through, Rost said. We go under. He unveiled his plan. The laboratory's lowest levels extended into subspace, a consequence of a failed dimensional experiment. The portals were unstable and dangerous, but they bypassed all conventional defenses. One major problem, Sarah noted. Subspace exposure causes rapid cellular breakdown in most species. We'll have minutes at best. Not for Drathar, Saras quietly interjected. We evolved in the void between stars. Subspace is like home. But you're half synthetic now, Ethan pointed out. We don't know how the modifications will react. Only one way to find out. The team, Ethan, Saras, and Rost, took a small shuttle. The rest of the crew would wait, ready for an immediate extraction. As they neared the subspace entry point, reality warped violently. Colors that should not exist bled through the viewports, and Ethan felt a deep physical ache from the temporal resonances that human physiology was not meant to endure. Saras, however, thrived. The pain that had racked her for days subsided, and she moved with a renewed, fluid grace. I can sense it, she whispered. The synthesis programming. It is weaker here. Subspace interferes with the control signals. They docked on the laboratory's abandoned lower ring. Inside, the emergency lights bathed everything in a sickly, pulsating red. Human and Drathar corpses lay where they had fallen, perfectly preserved by the vacuum. This way, Rost guided them through the maze of corridors. The main research vault should still be sealed. They found it behind massive blast doors. Ethan cut through the metal with plasma charges while Sarah stood guard, her enhanced senses sharp for any danger. The vault was a chilling testament to arrogance. Tanks of failed, twisted experiments. Creatures that were neither Drathar nor human lined the walls. At the center, a huge computer core hummed with residual power. The original project synthesis data, Rost breathed. Everything they learned, everything they created. Saras approached the core, her hand hovering over the interface. I can feel echoes. Others like me. They all died screaming. You don't have to do this, Ethan insisted. Yes, I do. She touched the interface and let out a shriek. Terabytes of raw data violently flooded into her synthetic neural tissue, causing her entire body to convulse. Ethan caught her as her temperature dropped perilously low, her Drathar physiology initiating a survival shutdown. Through the pain, she gasped fragmented words. Varn changed it. Not merger and domination. One consciousness controlling all. Him. The terrible truth locked into place. Varn didn't want to merge the species. He intended to enslave them, using Saras's royal bloodline as the broadcast mechanism for his own consciousness. Can you stop it? Ethan demanded. Not stop the change, her eyes blazed with fierce determination. If I accept the synthesis, I can rewrite it. Make it what it was supposed to be. True merger. Willing participants only. A bridge, not a chain. That will kill you. I am already dying, she reminded him. At least this way, my death means something. Before he could protest further, alarms howled through the station. On the monitors, Varn's cruiser emerged from hyperspace, flanked by a full battle fleet. Mr. Cole. Varn's voice boomed through the speakers. Thank you for delivering the Heir precisely where I needed her. The laboratory systems will complete what I started. She will become the core of a new order, with me as its guiding will. The alien ship materialized alongside Varn's fleet. It was an amplifier designed to broadcast the synthesis across the galaxy. Run, Father, Saras urged, pushing Ethan away. Take the data and run. Not without you. Bloodkin doesn't mean dying together, she smiled through the pain. It means living for each other. You saved me, now let me save everyone else. The laboratory systems began activating under Varn's remote command, but Saras was faster. Her consciousness spread through the network like a benevolent wildfire. Where Varn's programming demanded domination, she offered choice. Interesting, she said, her voice now containing harmonic overtones as the synthesis began. He never understood. Power is not taking. It is giving. Her body began to transform, becoming translucent energy. Ethan saw the terrified child he rescued and the determined daughter she had become. Tell them, she commanded, her voice echoing through the dimensions. Tell both sides that peace is possible, that a child of war chose love over hate, that enemies can become family. The laboratory erupted in blinding light as the two versions of Project Synthesis clashed. Varn's domination against Saras's liberation. The alien amplifier writhed, its systems overloading. Ethan grabbed the data core and Rost pulled him toward the shuttle as the superstructure collapsed around them. They launched, riding the explosion's shockwave. Through the viewport, Ethan watched Saras's energy form battle the alien vessel. Her version, built on sacrifice and choice, was proving stronger. Varn's fleet opened fire, trying to destroy her before the transformation was complete, but it was too late. The synthesis took hold, spreading not as a forced takeover but as an invitation. Across both fleets, individuals suddenly felt the option to connect, to understand, to become more. She's doing it. Rost whispered in awe. She's ending the war. Not ending, Ethan thought, tears blurring his vision. Transforming. Saras's energy transformation ignited the sensors across 3 systems. Her consciousness spread like a web of light. Where her energy touched, weapons powered down. Soldiers on both sides reported the same phenomenon, suddenly feeling the terror, loss, and desperate desire for peace of their enemy. But Varn was not defeated. The Heir believes in freedom. His voice crackled across every frequency. But freedom is chaos. Order requires control. The alien amplifier ship, though damaged, pulsed with a different frequency. Where Saras offered connection, it imposed dominion. The battle was now a war of philosophies fought within the consciousness of every sentient being in range. We need to get to the Spire of 10,000 Wings, Rost said urgently. The Drathar Throne World's orbital fortress. That is where Varn is. He has the transmission arrays to broadcast his version across the galaxy. Saras needs help, Ethan said, watching her energy flicker. We help her by stopping him at the source. The shuttle was too small. They needed speed, firepower, and allies. Fortunately, Saras's sacrifice had an immediate transformative effect. Ships from both sides were breaking formation, their crews touched by empathy. For the first time in decades, humans and Drathar were talking instead of shooting. Ethan opened a wideband transmission. "This is Ethan Cole. I'm a father trying to save his daughter, and she is trying to save all of us. Varn wants to enslave both species. Help us stop him." The response was immediate. A coalition destroyer hailed them first. "This is Captain Maria Santos. My tactical officer just felt the terror of the Drathar children on the ship we were targeting. We can't do this anymore." "What do you need?" More ships joined. Drathar vessels who had felt human grief. Human ships whose soldiers had experienced Drathar honor. An impromptu alliance was born. The journey to the Drathar throne world, the most heavily defended fortress in the Empire, should have been impossible. But Saras's transformation had shattered the command structure. The spire of 10,000 wings hung in orbit, a crystalline mountain bristling with defenses. "Varn is there," Rost confirmed. "Top level, the throne room. He has declared himself emperor in the heir's absence." "What about the queen?" Ethan asked, referring to Saras's grandmother. "In stasis. Varn claimed she was infected by human bioweapons, a convenient lie to remove the only challenge to his authority." The Allied fleet, a mix of human and Drathar ships, engaged the Spire's defenses. It was a holding action. Small team, Ethan decided. We infiltrate while the fleet distracts them. "Suicide," Medic Sarah stated bluntly, who had insisted on coming. "Everything we've done has been suicide," Ethan replied. "We're still here." The infiltration team was small. Ethan, Rost, Sarah, and 3 volunteers. They used a stealth pod and docked at a forgotten maintenance port. Inside, the fortress was unnaturally quiet. They moved quickly, Sarah's repurposed medical scanner detecting life signs, and Rost's architectural knowledge guiding them through the labyrinthine passages. They were halfway to the throne room when they encountered Varn's special forces. These were not ordinary Drathar warriors, but the fully realized hybrids, partially synthetic, organically integrated, and entirely subservient to Varn's will. The ensuing battle was brutal. These beings were not fighting. They were merely extensions of a single malicious consciousness devoid of pain, fear, or hesitation. One of the human volunteers fell immediately, his neck savagely ripped open. The second was mortally wounded, Sarah, the medic, frantically using emergency foam to contain his internal injuries. "Go," the dying man gasped. "Stop him for the girl." They left him and their last Drathar volunteer, who had been instantly sliced apart by a monofilament wire trap, 3 levels down. By the time they reached the throne room antechamber, the infiltration team was reduced to 3, Ethan, Rost, and Sarah. "I should mention," Sarah said, checking her pistol's charge, "I'm not a medic. I'm Coalition intelligence sent to monitor Rost's defection." "And now?" Ethan asked. "Now," she stated, "I'm someone who felt a child's hope for peace and decided it was worth more than any government's agenda." The throne room doors, massive plates of resonating Drathar crystal, slid open, Varn's explicit invitation. The room was a jarring blend of ancient architecture and advanced technology. At its center, Varn sat not on the throne but encased in a technological web that integrated him directly into the Spire's systems. His body was now more machine than flesh, cables running from his skull to the amplification arrays. A dozen of his blank-faced hybrid guards surrounded him. "Ethan Cole," Varn's voice boomed through the chamber, "the human who believes he can save an entire species by loving a child." How pathetically sentimental. "Where is the queen?" Rost demanded. Varn motioned to a stasis pod near the throne. Inside, an elderly Drathar woman floated in suspension. "Technically alive," Varn sneered. "And her mind proved useful. Royal command codes, genetic authentication, all the little keys her bloodline provides." "Saras is the rightful heir," Ethan declared. "Your claim is illegitimate." "Saras is a dissipating energy pattern," Varn countered. "Soon she'll be nothing but background radiation. My synthesis, however, will endure. It offers order, not choice. Both species unified under a single will. Mine." The guards advanced. As Ethan, Rost, and Sarah prepared for the end, Ethan felt a familiar presence like a wave of warm light wash over his consciousness. Saras, still fighting, still aware. "Did you feel that?" he asked the others. "Yeah," Sarah breathed. "She's still here." The fight was swift and desperate. The hybrid guards were superior, but Ethan and his allies possessed free will. Sarah went down first, taking 3 guards with her using improvised explosives hidden in her false medical supplies. Her last words were, "Tell the kid she gave me something to believe in." Rost fought with the savage skill of a lifetime warrior, taking down 4 before a blade found his heart. As he fell, he pressed a small device into Ethan's hand. Throne room emergency lockdown. 30 seconds once activated. Make them count. Ethan was now alone against Varn and his remaining guards. His rifle was empty. "You cannot win," Varn stated from his web. "Even if you kill me, my version of the synthesis is already spreading. It will eventually overwrite the Heir's." "Maybe," Ethan conceded, activating the lockdown. Blast shield slammed shut, sealing the room. "But you're forgetting something. Saras isn't alone." Through the connection Saras had initiated, Ethan felt it. Thousands of beings, human and Drathar, who had accepted her gift, were lending her their collective strength. The crystalline walls of the throne room exploded inward as Saras manifested. She was transcendent, an energy given form by pure will and the desperate hope of 2 species weary of war. "Hello, Commander," she said, her voice harmonizing with itself. "You wanted to use me as a weapon. Congratulations, you succeeded." She moved faster than thought, her energy form passing through the hybrid guards. Varn's control shattered, replaced by free will. Some guards collapsed, overwhelmed by the sudden return of sensation. Others turned their fury on their master. Varn tried to flee, but the lockdown he never expected blocked him. Ethan intercepted him at the throne. "You could have had peace," Ethan stated. "Peace is weakness," Varn snarled, pulling a hidden blade. The brief final fight was decisive. Varn had sacrificed his fighting prowess for technological integration. Ethan had not. The blade intended for Ethan's heart ended up in Varn's throat. As Varn died, his technological web failed, and the corrupted synthesis signal ceased. Saras's energy form stabilized beside the throne. "It's done," she said, exhausted. "But I can't hold this form much longer. The synthesis is consuming everything." "Then stop," Ethan pleaded. "You've done enough." "I can't," she smiled sadly. "If I stop, both versions fail. The connection breaks. The war resumes. This is what I was meant for, to be a bridge. Bridges do not cross to either side." "That's not true." Ethan moved to the Queen's stasis pod, using Varn's severed hand to release the locks. The Queen of the Drathar Empire took her first free breath in months. She took in the scene, the carnage, the energy form of her granddaughter, and the human soldier standing guard. "You saved her," the Queen stated. "We saved each other," Ethan replied. The Queen approached Saras's flickering form and touched her. Royal authority, genetic authentication, and, more importantly, acceptance flowed between them. "Child, you have carried this burden alone long enough," the Queen decreed, her voice broadcasting throughout the Spire. "The synthesis does not need one bridge. It needs many." She announced that Varn was a traitor and declared that the synthesis offered by her granddaughter was not mandatory, but welcomed. Saras's form stabilized, drawing power from the thousands who were accepting the connection. "I need anchors," she said. "People on both sides to maintain the connection, to ensure it remains choice, not compulsion." "I volunteer," Ethan said instantly. "As do I," the Queen added. As more volunteers joined, the transformation became gentler. Ethan felt the synthesis integrate with his being, augmenting his humanity. He could feel the growing network of consciousness, with Saras maintaining the core. "Father," Saras said, truly present. "I can feel both sides now. The fear is fading. Understanding is growing." "Then we'll give it time," Ethan promised. 6 months later, the galaxy struggled to adjust. Peace hadn't come from a treaty, but from understanding. Ethan now worked at the Unity Station, formerly the Spire, in a research facility dedicated to stabilizing Saras. "The cellular degradation is accelerating," reported Dr. Amara Okonkwo. "Every time she manifests physically, she loses cohesion. She's burning her life force to maintain the connection." The Queen, now a staunch advocate for peace, stood by. Dr. Okonkwo revealed Varn's research on synthesis nodes, individuals who could maintain local networks without draining the central source. Alerts suddenly flashed. A disturbance in the network, a shared nightmare of domination. "Varn," the Queen breathed. "His body died," Dr. Okonkwo confirmed. but his consciousness, deeply integrated into the Spire, survived as a digital ghost, a virus spreading through the network. We can't purge him without destroying the entire network. Saras materialized, her crimson eyes flickering with a corrupted purple light. He's using the network structure against me. Sarah, the former spy, now recovered, explained the only way. Someone with the genetic markers must enter the quantum space entirely and purge him. I volunteer, Ethan said immediately. As do I, the Queen added. More volunteers joined, soldiers, civilians, and even Varn's former guards. Ethan was the last to enter the synthesis chamber. He found himself in a quantum space filled with streams of consciousness. Saras was fighting alone against Varn's corrupted will. You again, Varn's presence sneered. The father who knows love conquers all, Ethan replied. The battle was one of pure will. The network itself began to choose Varn's domination or Saras's understanding. Overwhelmingly, they chose Saras. Varn's scream of rage was the last sound he ever made, his consciousness fragmenting. But his final feedback pulse struck Saras, and she began to fade. Father, stop, she gasped. Then we die together. That's what family does. But the other nodes, the Queen, Santos, and the volunteers poured their collective will into saving her. Varn's attack was dissipated. The effort changed the network. It became self-sustaining. In the chamber, a new state of existence formed, a stable gateway between quantum space and physical reality. One by one, the volunteers, including Ethan, materialized, transformed. They were physical beings with quantum consciousness, capable of maintaining the network. Saras materialized last, the unhealthy purple light gone. We can exist in both states, she whispered. It worked, Dr. Okonkwo wept. The transformation created a new form of life. The peace talks advanced rapidly. Compromise is now achievable with nodes on both sides able to share true understanding. The war ended with evolution. Saras stood with Ethan on the observation deck of the Unity station. Do you regret what you've become? She asked. No, he said. I lost one family to war. I gained another through peace. Fair trade, she leaned against him. Father, she said quietly. The transformation, when you shared your life force, some of your genetic material integrated with mine at the quantum level. I'm partially human now. You really are my father. The revelation cemented their bond, family by choice, by sacrifice, and now by the very fabric of their being. So what now? Saras asked. The galaxy doesn't need soldiers. I think I'll keep doing what I've been doing, Ethan smiled. Taking care of my daughter, helping her take care of everyone else. Through the network, the consciousness of his first daughter, Lily, smiled, knowing her father had found peace and another daughter to love. The war was over. Family, after all, was what you made it.